Hi, I'm Tony Lale. I'm a fractional CMO, and I'm here today with Grant Ekstrom. He's the managing partner at Succurri. They provide IT services to a lot of different technical businesses out there. And the topic we want to talk about today is the different levels of IT management maturity and why that's even important to have business owners understand. How's it going,
Tony? We're here again.
We're here again, one more time. No, yep. I love these conversations because I know it's in the IT world and that's, your specialty, but really the specialty is helping businesses grow. You just happen to have a really deep knowledge of IT.
I'm just a nerd. I mean, that's just, but yeah, I mean, IT business is business, right? And the strategies are the same, no matter what part of your business you're using. So IT management maturity, IT maturity model comes from a business maturity model. So, you start out your business and it's probably you and, potentially your wife, you're out of a garage and you're shooting from the hip, right? You're dealing with problems as they come along, and then you get a little further down the path and that's not sustainable anymore. So you put some things into place that help you to get that next level, and that goes. You have to continue doing that throughout your business, even into the massive corporations, right? You continue and evolve your business processes, and that's the same for IT as well. It's something that you don't think about it when you're in it, but when you step back and look at it, and you realize, oh yeah, no, I remember when I was at that level.
Well, the way I look at it is, how do you look at IT when you're managing your business? Just like you might look at, how do you look at marketing and sales? Or how do you look at, I'll just use a general term, production or service delivery? The way that you manage your business shifts a little bit, and we just happen to be talking about IT. So walk us through the different maturity levels and tell us why it's important that businesses understand this stuff.
Yeah. So you start out at chaos, right? So chaos is what I was talking about, where you're doing everything ad hoc. You're putting out fires as fast as they are starting. And that's just because there's no process in place. There's no strategic thought behind it, because you aren't in business to do IT. You're in business to do whatever business that you do. And so IT has been always a second thought or an afterthought. And so then you start getting to a spot where you're like, hey, this is actually impacting my business. This is stopping me from being productive. It's creating a lot of lag time between, setting up employees to deployment of new technologies. And so that's that level one side of it. You get to level two where you're like, I'm committed to making a change. And you start implementing some tools and some processes that will allow you to have a little bit more of a sustainable outcome, a reliable outcome. At that point, there's still a lot of ad hoc things happening. There's a lot of things that are happening from the purview out there that are out of sight of your control, or at least you haven't tried to control them yet. And so that's where you get to that level two, but you know that you have a problem, and that's the step, right? Level three is where we see most companies that we work with, or we try to help them get to that spot where you're no longer thinking in a reactive state of mind. You're thinking about proactive. So you're thinking about budgeting. You're thinking about life cycle management. You're thinking about strategic initiatives, or at least starting to think about strategic initiatives and how you leverage all this infrastructure and investment you put into your company. How can you start leveraging that to actually get a competitive edge? Then you start getting into 4 and 5, and honestly, I don't come across a lot of 5s because that's a little bit harder to obtain. That's the goal, right? That's the gold standard. You always want to shoot for that. But 4 is where you do start leveraging those technologies. You start getting integration. You start getting to business process automation. Pull the topic for a different story, a different day. But don't worry, we'll put one out for it later.
Right.
But that's where when you start connecting systems to be able to have information flow, you start having things that human beings do on a daily basis start happening automatically. And with AI coming into business, that's where that AI part comes into play, where you're able to utilize processes that you've built in 2 and 3 and 4, and being able to teach AI how to be able to do these things without a human being interaction and having really consistent outcomes.
It seems like those different levels, as your business grows and your revenue grows, you can afford more IT support or IT service. Is that the case? How do you see the correlation between IT management, maturity, and revenue?
Yeah, great question. So when you get to a spot where you no longer look at IT as a cost, you look at it as a strategic initiative, you are able to actually scale substantially larger when you're leveraging technology than if you're doing it ad hoc and just every time you have something that happens, you have to add an employee, right? Well, that gets really, really expensive and there's no scalability. And so you start, let's say you get a really large deal that you maybe can't actually really deliver on right now. If you had to build the scalability, now it's easy to bring on new clients because the infrastructure is already there, the system's already in place, which then at that point directly impacts revenue.
I mean, something simple as everybody needs access to this type of technology and software in our business.
Right.
If you're having to manage that, Joe, knows how to, he can get you access. Well, Joe's busy, so now it's how do you streamline something with technology that gives you access to the right pieces of software in a hurry.
Self-service is a great example of that. Yeah. So that's where you get like self-service for IT being removed out of the equation and it being a direct access to the employee, and they get the services and the tools that they need on the fly without having to ask somebody for it. It's already there.
Yeah.
And that's like 4 and 5 is where you're talking about.
Oh, okay. Yeah. When you are evaluating clients, new clients, or existing clients for that matter, why is it that their IT maturity matters to you? It's one of the first things you look at, right? When you're evaluating a fit.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds funny, but we do have to interview potential clients. In a managed service environment, it's a risk model. So in a fully managed environment, we're taking on the risk to be able to manage that client on the IT side of it. And if they have low maturity models, it's chaos. And so don't get me wrong, we have products that are designed specifically for the people that are either doing ad hoc or the ownership that wants to run IT on their own. We have models for that. So there's specific clients that do well in that environment. When you start looking at maturity levels of 3 and 4, you want to have a budget. And so you have to have a connection with that client where you're seeing eye to eye on what the goals are. So if a client's looking to have a budget, they have to be at a higher level because you have to have predictability. And that's where when the IT maturity model really comes into play, is that you're looking for predictability in both cost of IT and reliable outcomes of deliverables. It's really important to be at that level. And so we look at, we definitely work with clients that are at that 2 that want to make that effort. Definitely at that 3 and that 4 mark. Like I said, you don't see a ton of 5s. We love the 5s. Those are the exciting ones. Important that we're strategically aligned on what their goals are and that we can deliver those services for them.
Well, I know you guys have spent a lot of time in the last, year getting to a point where you can service people at all the different levels. And I don't think a lot of IT companies out there are capable of doing that. Some of them require you to be at a certain level before you even touch them. And now what's exciting about what you guys have done is you've said, hey, let's meet our clients at the level that they're at and let's grow them. And that also helps grow their business.
Yeah, I mean, everybody needs a good help desk, a good IT provider to call, whether they're at stage 1 or stage 5. And so I didn't want to be the position of saying, hey, I only work with 3s and 4s, because honestly, before this video, probably nobody had any idea what I was talking about. Now you start looking at it and you're like, okay, the 2s want to be there, right? They want to get to 3 and we can help them. The 1s, they don't necessarily know that they need to get to the 2s and the 3s, and we're here to help them. And if they want to stay at a spot where ad hoc works well for them and it works well for the business, we can do that as well.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you're watching this and listening to this and you see yourself at level 1 or 2, or need to even put a language around it, having a conversation with someone like Grant who can help you see where things are at, because you might not even know, oh, we're at level 2. We think we want to be at level 3. We don't even know how to talk about it.
Well, and that's a great point. Yeah, and that's a great point. I mean, and one of the things we didn't talk about are, we call them impact zones. And it might be something that you don't really notice it until you kind of step back. And that impact zone typically is financially based. And so it could be, $250,000 a month in revenue, or at a $5 million annual. And every time that you come across those impact zones, basically your business stops. Like you can't grow anymore. You end up hiring an employee, you let an employee go. You bring on a client, you let an client go, or and so you just kind of in that same cycle over and over again, and you're not getting to that next level. And you're like, why can I not grow? And a lot of times it's a maturity level that's in place. Yeah. So being able to kind of step back and saying, okay, I'm at this maturity level. I need to get to that next one. What are the steps I need to do? What are the reinvestments I need to do in my business to get to that next level and move on to that next impact zone?